right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health Mondays. I am Mind Runner, and I am real excited because my guest is somebody I've been wanting to talk to. I think a kindred spirit with the advocating for mental health and sharing our stories and the stories of others to share that you are not alone in this world, that there are a lot of us are finding ways to overcome our struggles with mental health. And this is a huge mental health advocate. She is known on the Twitterverse, the Twitchverse, YouTube, and of course on her podcast, which you can actually find on Spotify. A little bit of Laura, aka Laura Parks. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I know this is a huge sacrifice because we're recording this on a Friday afternoon, right after your end of your work day, which I'm sure you just were like, yeah, you know what I want to do when I get home after a long week? I want to get on a podcast and talk to some schmo about about mental health. That's what I want to do. I don't want to just lay down and take a nap or just watch some Netflix. So, but I really
Right.
appreciate this, and I mean, I think mental health seems like it's important to both of us,
Mhm.
and I really have enjoyed listening to your podcast. I'm starting to think maybe I need to add a little jazz music in the back of mine because I'm sitting there like I'm cruising, listening to your voice, and I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe she's on to something here.
Aw.
Maybe it'll balance my radio DJ voice sometimes. But thank you again. How have you been? Other than wanting to get done with this so you can go take a nap.
Well, life has its ups and downs, and winter is not exactly my favorite season
Mm-mm.
per se, because that's where you hit that down slope and your body just shuts down because it's cold, it's dreary, it's wet, it's cloudy. You don't want to do jack squat.
Mm-mm.
So, in the bright sunny days, you're open, you're laughing, you're excited, you want to get out in the sun. So, that's me. I'm on this roller coaster and I'm like, make it stop.
Right?
Make it stop.
It's like, come on now. And like winter is kind of like a hibernation time, with it gets darker earlier. I used to live in Iceland where they only had 2 hours of sunlight in the winter. Like you'd go to school
Mm-mm.
in dark. I went to high school when I was in Iceland, and I'd eat lunch at sunrise.
Mhm.
I'd go home from school at sunset. Like that's how imagine the
No.
depression there.
Mm-mm.
Now the flip side is the summer it never gets dark. The sun will just dip below the horizon and come back up. But
Mhm.
you're honest, do you feel like the weather does influence? I mean, not just the weather, but
Oh
like
my God,
I mean,
yes.
how does that influence our attitudes in mental
Yes.
health?
Well, I do see a therapist, and she has told me that there is such a thing as seasonal depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, I think that's what I had because I had plateaus where I was just really, really down. And then spring and summer, it'd come right back up and
Mm-hmm.
it'd just be a roller coaster. So she did say there is such a thing as seasonal depression, but you have to be, diagnosed with that. You can't just assume, oh, well, I have this because you're down in the dumps for a couple of months. Then you come back up to the horizon and then you're up in the sky because everything is oh so lovely and dandy and you're so excited. So seasons and weather can affect your mental health, definitely.
Yep,
Yes.
absolutely, and kudos to her because I'm a huge advocate of therapy, seeing a therapist.
Mhm.
But sometimes I feel like there's just like with doctors and other professions, it seems like there's some cases where they're quick to just throw out a diagnosis. And how
Mhm.
is seasonal depression different from like a bipolar disorder? Because I could see a lot of unlicensed, like usually my relatives, they're like, "Oh, you got bipolar disorder." No, it's just winter. I'm I'm down. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Well, I grew up with both of my parents having bipolar,
Hmm.
so I was raised around it. So I know my mom's cues because she still has it. She sees a therapist. She has
Hmm.
medicated, but I see her cues whenever it goes to a certain season, and she'll start to act funny. And whenever, she comes out of that dump, it's like, okay, mom, you're good, you're fine, you're not going to dump into that. But back in the day, they didn't have technology like we do now.
Hmm.
They didn't have therapists like they do now. So back then, it could have been anything. It could have been that they were depressed, it could have been that they were stressed, it could be anything other than bipolar. But I don't know when that became a thing back in the day. I don't know when, but I do know that, according to my older brother, that both of them had it. My mom even confirmed they both had it. So voila, I have it because I grew up around it. That's the only behavior that I know.
Yeah.
And so, with being surrounded by so much trauma, because I had a lot of trauma that I grew up in, because of all of that, it's caused me to get into some depression spells. Depression spells for me is I don't want to take my own life, but I don't want to be here,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Mentally, you're like, I'm not here. I've checked out. I'm somewhere down in the ground. I want to be away from people. I don't want to be talking to people. I don't want to be around others. I don't want to socialize. I don't want to talk on the phone. Heck, I don't even want to talk to anybody, even texting. You just want to sit there and mope and say, oh, woe is me. Life is dreary. I don't like this. I don't like that. And anytime someone gives you advice, you're like, well, you don't understand. I'm dealing with this. Or it's like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving you advice of what you can do. It's up to you to decide if you want to do it. But I did this. This helped me. It may not help you,
Hmm.
but it helped me. And so that's what I'm trying to do with, my podcast
Hmm.
is give my advice that I've done, what helps me, maybe helps you, maybe not. But if you try it, it might help you. And if it doesn't, I apologize. But it's not meant for everybody. Certain techniques are not meant
Hmm.
for everybody. And I have tried many, many, many things, and what I do fits me.
Yeah, and I think that's what you and I both kind of see is we're not trying to offer professional
Mm-mm.
advice. We're not doctors. We're not sitting here going,
Right,
"Well, I've diagnosed you, and this is what works." No, we're not, and
right.
we're not selling snake oil either. This is just we're
No,
sharing real stories from real
right,
people, ourselves and others, on what has worked for us. And you're absolutely right
right.
because everybody's different.
Mm.
How many times have you been in those depression spots though, and you've had friends who actually care about you, but they'll say snap out of it, or they'll give you advice and it's just like, oh no, you don't get it. You know?
Oh my gosh. So, with that being said, I have had to cut ties with certain friends who
Hmm.
have tried to put in their 2 cents. They won't stop. Even when I tell them that's not for me, that's for you, and they won't stop. Like they
Hmm.
repeatedly say it over and over. And I'm just going to touch on this that I am a Christian. I do believe in God. I do
Hmm.
believe that He has saved my life multiple times. I almost tried to take my own life when I was 12.
Oh wow.
So there is such a thing. He has saved me from many of my problems. But just because I believe in Him and just because I go to church often, does that mean that I'm a Bible ridden, Christian? I
Hmm.
don't quote the Bible. I don't read it as often as I should, which I know. But He lives in me. And because He lives in me, I'm still living. I'm still alive. Because I know for a fact if it wasn't for Him stepping in, or my aunt for that matter, stepping in when she did, catch me in the kitchen for that matter,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be here.
that was divine intervention.
It was. It was. And I have told that to many, many people. And the fact that I know at least three close friends of mine have taken their own lives, but they were just like you and me. They were
Hmm.
just like us. You don't know what they're dealing with. They can act like normal human beings, but on the inside, they're fighting their own battles every
Hmm.
day. And that's what I'm trying to get out is that just because you don't want other people to know what you're dealing with because you are sick doesn't mean you can't reach out for help. Just talking to someone will help.
Yeah.
Seeking therapy will help. Self-medication with drugs and alcohol is not the answer. It is the
No,
complete
no.
opposite of the answer.
But I wonder how much of that self medication came from, you know, we are fortunate to be in a time where a lot of us can be open about mental health. Where like, but when I was much younger, especially for like guys, it was like go stand in the rain and cope with it, you know. But everybody, it was like mental health was such a taboo subject. If even mention, hey, I need to go see a therapist, and a lot of people go, oh, are you going to go to the funny farm? And
Yes.
now we're in a
Yes.
time where we can really be able, like you said too, we have the technology and we have the awareness of bipolar disorder,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just, that's, yeah, you see Stacy over there, she's just
Mm-hmm.
moody, like,
Right. Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting what you meant touched on too. The face of someone depressed isn't always
No.
like mopey. It could be like Robin Williams is a great example of
Yes.
somebody
Oh my God.
who,
Yes.
like he's kind, he was like the sad clown,
Yeah.
where he's performing and making everybody else laugh, but that just because he's the life of the party, you have no idea what's going on in the inside with him.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
I,
Yeah.
I I feel like that. So I think that it's great that we're talking about this kind of stuff, and I like your attitude towards, hey, this is what works for me. But at some point, like you mentioned, with you have sometimes you get toxic people that they're I almost feel like they're giving the advice for like more for their own purposes
Mm-hmm.
rather than to truly listen and help.
Mm-hmm.
I
Exactly.
as a Christian myself as well, I like to, one thing that really works for me, doesn't work for everybody, is I
Mm-hmm.
always think of like a circle. You have your realm of control, and everything outside of your realm of control, leave to God, leave to Christ to handle,
Yes.
and everything on
Yes.
the inside you deal with, like,
Right.
what you eat today, or
Mm-hmm.
going for a walk, making yourself go for a walk, those kind of things, that's in your side, your realm of control. And then your
Mm-hmm.
realm of concern is, like, if your realm of concern, if everything outside of your realm of control, if you leave that, and essentially it's like a wheel. So when you say Jesus take the
Right.
wheel, it's like, hey, deal with everything outside. It takes a tremendous weight off of my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that I have friends, and anytime I bring up religion of any kind, and whether it's my Christianity or any religion, they get funny, like,
Yes.
because why do you think there's such a stigma when you try to talk about your religion, not in a, hey, I'm going to convert you way, but more of, hey, this is me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think that's become kind of a stigma?
Yes. Yes. Because everyone, I had a couple of the from the app. Not gonna lie, I had a couple of questions from there saying, if there is such a God, why is there horrible things going on in this world? It's like, I can't answer that. I
Yeah.
really can't. It's not under what I believe, it's under what you believe. If you want to believe he's a horrible person, that's you. I believe he's not a horrible person, but I do strongly believe everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stress that enough. It's
Yeah.
like, I know it's a cliche saying, but it's true. It is so true.
And it's
Like what
hard
he
for
just said.
people. It's hard for people that haven't experienced that divine hand.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, and I always try to call it like the divine magnet, because for people that aren't Christians, it still kind of covers that there is a force in the universe that's
Mhm.
pulling things. So
Right.
if I'm talking to somebody that isn't a Christian, they still kind of understand the concept, but it's really difficult, and it sounds like hoochly poochly stuff until you actually experience that hand. We
Mhm.
had some moments just recently where things just happened. It was such a wild coincidence that it had to be divine. And
Mhm.
like you talk about your aunt coming in when you were 12.
Mhm.
That's the hand of God coming in and saying, no, you're going on this path.
Right.
And I always find it interesting too that most like AA or Alcoholics Anonymous, or
Mhm.
any kind of trauma surviving group is a
Mhm.
lot of times founded in faith. How
Mhm.
important is faith in managing mental health, and what advice would you give to people that are struggling with faith, and in addition to their mental health?
Well, my father passed away 10 years ago this summer. And whenever he passed away, my one of my dearest friends, they took their own lives too.
Oh,
So it was like my dad passed, and then my one of my mentors passed away within 6 months of each other.
Oh wow.
So it was like I was physically, emotionally, mentally numb. There was like nothing there for me anymore. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I really don't. And so, I there was a song that I listened to because we were just getting back from doing our taxes, and I sat in the car, and I remember a song, can't think of it now, but I sat in the car, and as I listened to that song, I just played that song on repeat 3 or 6 times, and I cried the entire way through the song. Every single Sunday going to church, I'd cry my eyes out. People were
Mm-hmm.
coming up to me, giving me hugs and everything. And at one point, one of my friends sat next to me, and she's holding me. Obviously, I'm crying. And she said, "Do you feel warmth on your left shoulder?" And I said, "Yeah, isn't that you?" She said, "No." And I said, "What is that?" She said, "He's with you." "Who?" She goes, your dad and Christ. They're both with you. And I said, "I
Mm-hmm.
only feel one arm." She goes, "Yeah, that's because it's God, you, or God, your dad, you. So he's giving your dad strength to touch your shoulder. So therefore you're comforted because they're saying we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad is healthy. Your dad is better. He's not sick. He's not suffering." So because of that, I got a tattoo on my wrist, and it says faith on my wrist as a daily reminder. My dad's always with me. He'll always push me. And I didn't like, I believed for a long time there was a God until I was baptized. And then I got off the trail, got back on the trail, got off the trail, back and forth, back and forth. That's also what depression does to you. It
Mm-hmm.
makes you go every which way. And I get off the path. I'm like, no, I got to stay focused. And I get on it. Whenever you hit that dip, is when you fall off the bandwagon again. And you just trot off on the other side, like, oh, woe is me. This is bad. This sucks. I'm going through all this. I don't know what to do. And over here, you got your trail, and I see, God standing there like, I'm right here. Just
Mm-hmm.
come back. I don't, I'm here for you. Just come back. And so, because of all the trauma that I've suffered through, he's pushed me through it all. If it wasn't for
Mm-hmm.
him, I wouldn't be here. I had plenty of opportunities to not physically be here. And so, because of my belief system, it's like I don't push it on people. I don't say you should read this and you should read that. And you should go to church and what
Mm-hmm.
have you. I don't push it because I
You're
know not
going
everyone.
to burn. Yeah. I always think that's the worst advocation for for converting people to Christianity. Like, what? You're like,
But they
I
see.
was in, where were we? Tampa. I think we were in Tampa or somewhere. Me and my friends, and we're going into a bar, and on the
Mhm,
other street corner was this family. It was a father and like his 2 sons, and one of the kids had to have been 7 years old, and
mhm.
they're all in ties, and they're going, "You're gonna burn in hell. You guys are going into the debauchery and and I'm just looking. I'm like, first of all, and the first thought I was like, if Christ came down, he
Mhm.
wouldn't hang with them. He would go into the bar and talk to the people there and say, hey,
Yes.
and I was, but
Mhm,
I just always felt like to me that was almost like self-serving to have those
mhm.
Bible thumping, condemning others like that.
Yes.
What
Yes.
what do you how what are some of the strategies you've used to get out of those slumps when you hit those slumps, like when you're feeling it? I mean, it seems like first acknowledging that that's where you are is helpful.
Mhm.
And what are some things that helps you get out of that, or is it just a matter of, all right, I got to roll with it, I got to roll through it?
It's a little bit of both. Because it happens so often for me. Because whenever it's stress and anxiety driven for me. If I'm highly stressed and if I am so full of anxiety that I need to burst. That's what I call cry my eyes out. I need to
Mhm.
burst. So I think of something that would trigger it. And me and my therapist have discussed there's ways to trigger me to start crying. So as you can see right now, I'm in a closed space. This is where I call my sanctuary. This is my closet.
Nice.
This is where I do my recording work. This is where I focus. This is where I come to break.
Hmm.
So I will play, there's 3 different songs that I alternate through, and I'll listen to the song. And whenever you're in that slump, music, you actually hear the lyrics, you hear what the song is saying.
Hmm.
But if you're in a good mood and if you're, grooving and grooving and grooving, it's just exactly, you're just going to hear music. It's like, oh, I love this tune. This is such a good song. You'll sing the song with it. But when you're in that slump and you hear the certain songs, you hear every single word that's being said, and it touches and it just stabs you in the heart. You're like, oh my God, this is what I need. And I just sit there and I cry it out. I scream out. Yes, I do scream. I scream it out.
Hmm.
I cry it out and I just sit there and I wait. And then I wait. I'm like, I'm in that moment. I'm getting it all out. I'm listening to the 3 different songs on repeat. When I finally feel better, then I'll look up and it's like rain is washing over me.
Oh
So
wow.
I'm looking down, I'm crying out the anger, crying out the frustration, the depression, this hurts, this sucks, yada yada yada. I take a deep breath, I look up and I feel waves of comfort, waves of happiness, waves of grace. And it's like God saying, dump it all out. You don't
Hmm.
need that anymore. Look up to me and get refreshed with my love, with my humility, and with
Hmm.
my grace, because that is no longer yours that you just spilled out. This is what you deserve. Get out what's negative and breathe in what's love and what's me.
That's got to be incredibly cathartic too. It's like a purge, and I feel
Yes.
like that's something that for so long it's been keep bottle it up, bottle it up, bottle it up,
Yes.
and so many of us, I feel like we tend to bottle up our feelings and emotions instead of just, and it's I recommend people just go find a place, just scream into a pillow if you have to.
Yes.
Go just
Yes.
find just let it out. It's so much
Mm-hmm.
more cathartic because you're either going to let it out in a fortress of solitude or
Mm-hmm.
your cubby womb, whatever you decide to create, or
Mm-hmm.
you're going to let it out at the wrong time because something's going
Exactly.
to set you off, and then you might be in the middle of traffic and go off and make poor decisions at that point.
Right.
I that's why I encourage too. Yeah, as a teacher, I like giving the kids a little spot where they could go cool off in the
Yes.
classroom, where they could
Yes.
just because there were kids that would have bad days and kids that would have anger issues. I had one friend, his nickname was Cowboy, and he would get really angry. But then as
Mm-hmm.
soon as he would calm down, he'd come over and apologize. And he'd give me the fist bump and he'd apologize to whoever got hurt with whatever he did. But just having that place where he could just kind of cool off was so important. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like as adults, we need to do that. I feel like we need
Yes.
to make sure we've got. I love that you have this, like this little, like I call it, I guess, Fortress of Solitude, if kind of
Mm-hmm.
using the Superman parallel, but it's like it's just get it out. And
Yeah.
I wish, if that's one piece of advice I wish everybody could understand, your emotions are how you feel. And I think
Yes.
that's one of the things do you think that sometimes we get mad, we blame ourselves for how we feel, which or and that's such a wrong thing because it's kind of like that would be the equivalent of being mad at yourself for being wet if it started raining. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like it feels,
Yes.
you feel wet. Now, you can judge yourself on the
Mhm.
actions you take from those feelings. Like if you're
Mhm.
angry at somebody, you can't be mad at yourself. You can't help to feel anger. Anger is how you feel. But if you
Mhm.
punch them in the face, that's on you. But you
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? I mean, do you think we
Mhm.
we tend to get mad at us or think there's something wrong with us because of our feelings?
Yes. Yes. Because I've been there. I've done that. And I still am that way to myself. I still criticize myself.
Hmm.
And it's just a force of habit. I do it all the time. I don't even know I'm doing it until someone points it out to me. Like, Laura, stop doing that to yourself. Stop putting yourself down. And I'm like, well, this is me. This is what I do. They're like, no,
Yeah,
that's not who you are. That's not what you do. They tell me all this, they give me compliments and I take them. But at the same time, that illness in the back of my head is saying they're telling lies. They're not telling you the truth. That's not really you. Just take the compliment and go on and go back to
they
square where you were.
they don't know the darkness inside you. Yeah,
Yes.
yep, yep.
Yes. Yes.
It's like it's such a terrible like imposter syndrome. I get it all the time myself, and it makes doing our podcast tough because we'll sit there and we'll go, no one's gonna care. Why are
Yes.
we gonna, who's listening?
Oh my God.
Who cares about me? Why do we even have jazz music on this? But I mean, isn't that true? Like that's the most devious voice because it's in our head. and we don't see what other people see in us. We just see that, and it kind of goes back to even Robin Williams, because a lot of people, they, we may be faking it very well, like, hi, we may be making others laugh, but on the inside we're dark. But how do we fight this monster called imposter syndrome and and self-deprecation? How do we learn to love ourselves?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Right? I will say this. One of the things that I do, and I love I'm gonna call it your pod, if you will, because it's a great. But finding a space, I don't want to call it safe space because that gets in it sounds like a lot of other stuff. But how important it is to take time. If I usually try to do this first thing in the morning, to just take some time, like even 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just to meditate. I'd say the morning prayer. I say the Lord's Prayer. I say, it doesn't have to be prayer if you're not religious. You can just kind of sit there and just kind of think about your day. I mean, people sometimes roll their eyes when I mention gratitude, but I think it's important also to think about the things you're grateful for. But having that moment to just kind of it can shift your perspective for the whole day. It doesn't mean you're going to have a great day. I mean, you may get out to your car and it doesn't start, but then there's going to be, or you spill your coffee on yourself or something like that. But it's to me, I feel like taking that moment just to kind of just align yourself is so much. It helps you start a little bit on the right foot. Have you found that to be the case?
Yes. After I get dressed, I, come into my area in here and I just sit here, listen to at least two of my favorite songs to get me pumped up, get me going, get me excited, and like, okay, I got to face the day. And even though my posting on Twitter is for everybody else on Twitter, like encouraging words and whatnot, it's also for myself too. Because I read what I post, like the little pictures or whatever, I read it to myself over and over until I finally understand what it's saying. Then I share it and it's like, okay, I believe this because I spoke this over myself. I read it out loud. Because if you just say it in your head, you're not hearing yourself. I'm a vocal person. I have to hear myself say it to comprehend what I'm saying out loud. And so that also helps me too. I do that mostly than anything because I can actually do it in my car. When I pull up to work, I'm in the parking lot. I need to read this. So I'll read it over again and I read it again. Go inside. What happens at work stays at work.
Good.
No matter
That's
how
hard to do.
crappy it was, it is. And sometimes I have to vent. So I'll call my mom up, I'll tell her about my day and I'll feel so much better because I try not to. It's like kind of like ghost hunting. You go on a ghost hunt and then those spirits attach themselves to you and you're like, you're not welcome. Get off of me. You have to stay here. That's kind of like what work is to me. It latches on to me. But I have
That's
all
a great
these
analogy. Yeah. It's like, get off. Yeah, maybe every job office needs an office exorcist at the end when you're walking by. They get all the work demons off you. The little demon by the copy machine, like, you're gonna have to stay overtime today.
Oh my goodness,
it's tough. Leaving work at work is so tough, especially but it's also so important to have somebody to vent to. And then I guess if you don't have somebody available to vent to, just vent to yourself or like you just go to your little pod and scream, and that's so important. And workplace is so, especially over the last few years, the workplace has been so crazy. You're in the medical field, sort like, and I remember I was listening to one of your podcasts. You're kind of talking like how things have kind of changed at your job, where it's become much more medical rather than like, and like, how important is it to have good leadership in a job, a workplace, and to have a good team and to avoid those toxic pitfalls at work, I guess in life too?
Well, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that I can say or do about that because, whenever you switch to different management systems, the new manager is going to set their tone for the whole area.
Hmm.
So everyone's so used to the old one. So everyone's laid back, I need this and I need that. And, they do things their way, their pace. But when a new manager comes in, by golly, you're going to do it her way, or else you're going to be pulled into the principal's office, how I call it.
Yeah.
Because I've seen many of my coworkers go into her office and they're having a long chat. I'm thinking, what is going on in there? So it's like I'm terrified I'm going to be called in there, but I've done my job. I've been doing
Yeah.
my job for 3 years. I know what I'm doing, and if I know something is wrong with me, I will ask her, what am I doing wrong? And so if there's a management position that does not have the same belief system as me with family stuff, it's really difficult to tell them, hey, I have a family to go home to. I have to be home at a certain time. And then when I first started at this new department that I'm in, the manager said, well, so and so has been here for so many years, so they get seniority and they get to leave when they want. Like, well, I don't think that's fair because I also
Yeah.
have little ones at home too. Like, well, you're new here, so you have to wait, a couple of more months, maybe a year, to where you can decide when you can leave.
Well, how about I decide to leave right now? Jeez, like I'm gonna go find a job that understands.
But needless
Yeah,
to say, that moved on. I'm still in that same clinic. I do get to leave when I want to leave because I
good.
now have seniority. I'm the only one out of what we call patient service representatives. I'm the only one that's stayed there for the past 3 years. Everyone else has either left or fired, whatever. I'm the only one left. So, and whenever the new manager came on, the boss's boss said, so and so's been here for this long. This one's been here for this long. She points to me. How long have you been here? As you mean on campus? 11 years. She's like, oh, okay. And in this clinic, 3 years. She's like, okay, Laura's your go-to person for any questions that you have. I was like, yeah, I'm your
Yeah.
person.
Now, when am I gonna see that go-to money in my paycheck? Now,
Right?
Well, let's talk about that.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. I mean, not to get a cliche question, but how has the last, since last 4 years with the pandemic and everything, how has that impacted your mental health and just kind of your social interactions with others?
Well, I will say that it has kind of turned me into a bit of a hermit in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I had my youngest like right before our state shut down.
Wow.
Like he was born March the 4th. 2 weeks later, all of Oklahoma City shut down. So I made it just in the nick of time before I was stuck in a hospital
Hey,
for the rest of my life.
there's that divine intervention, it happened. Let's get them out there before.
Yeah. I've become a little bit of a hermit. I'm still like a social butterfly when I'm out with friends and everything. But for the most part, if I have stuff to do, I can't go anywhere. I don't leave my house. My house, my chores, my kids are everything to me. So
Hmm.
it's like if someone's to hang out, I'm sorry, we have to plan that 2 weeks out in advance because I can't do anything. I literally have stuff going on. I can't just drop everything and go. And so therapy is also important to me. So if I miss a session for therapy, that messes me all up.
Hmm.
I've already missed a month of therapy. So I'm ready to let the tears flow as we speak. For the past 3 days, we've had a very, very long, rough day in clinic. So I almost called this off, to be honest with you. I thought, no, I have to do this. I need to do this. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to spread awareness. I'm trying to
Hmm.
encourage people that when you have bad days, you can still make it a better day before the end of the day.
Yes.
You
Well,
know, you there's still
glad you
chance,
kept
there's
your
still
appointment.
opportunity to do that. You can't just dwell on the past and say, "Oh, I had a crap day. This is what happened," and just be miserable for the rest of the day. No, get back up on your feet, listen to some hyped up music, watch a movie, do something that you enjoy to do, and do that, and you will feel better about yourself and about the day.
Absolutely, and it's easier said than done, of course. And I've
Mhm.
always found. Do you find or how do you manage that balance between like having self compassion and understanding when you're going through a rough patch, or you're at the you've fallen down the hill and you need to climb back up the hill. I think you used that analogy once, and climbing up the good hill. How do you balance between cutting yourself of some slack, giving yourself grace, versus kicking yourself in the ass and saying, you got to get going? The only way that you're going to rise out of this, or you got it. This is important to you. So you need to move forward. Where is that balance? Because it feels like I felt like growing up, I was taught one or the other. Either go mope and feel sorry for yourself and not do anything or stop your crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. Go out and, chop wood or something. And then my dad's voice just popped in there for a second. No. Anyways, that's difficult though. How do you balance that?
Very difficult, actually. Me doing my podcast is actually my way of saying, I know how you feel. I know this sucks. I know this hurts. But you're here. You're still here. You're still going. So you could sit there for a little bit, mope for a little bit, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Can I go? I don't want to do this. You keep repeating that in your head. But at the same time, you're still here. You're still alive. You have not done anything physically to harm yourself. No one's done anything to hurt you. No one's, threatened your life or anything. So you still serve a purpose. And everyone's different. So whenever I get in that slump, I listen to encouraging music. I listen to praise and worship. I listen to my favorite artists. And those lyrics, like I told you, lyrics will kick me in the ass. It's like, okay, I got to get up. I got to get moving. So my motivation not only is prayer, but is also the kind of music that is positive, encouraging lyrics. I'm not a fan of rap. I know people out there will love rap. I'm not a fan of it. It's not my cup of tea. But I do have certain bands I listen to on repeat that have the lyrics I need to listen to, that kicks me in the ass. It's like, okay, Laura, let's get your shit together. We have to do this. We have to get up. Everyone's depending on us. I'm depending on myself. My family's depending on me. My friends are depending on me. I'm not done yet. I'm still here. God's put me on this earth. I'm still alive. I've had two different times of divine intervention. I'm not done yet. I have a purpose here, and I'm here to serve that purpose. Whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing, I'm still here for that reason.
Absolutely. I like to get motivated by listening to the works of the poet Lil Jon, who says, turn down for what? That's one of his lyrics. Or, but he's obviously a rapper. He's the one that, yeah. But I mean, turn down for what? Let's go. But I think you're right. The worst, it's funny because how music is so influential in our spirit. I like you mentioned earlier, you're talking about there's some songs that that if you listen to, you're going to cry. The My Chemical Romance has the Black Parade. When I listen to that gets me. Oh my goodness. It gets, because it starts working into some stuff with my dad and stuff, just woo, and then but then there's songs that just really, it's funny too, because there's songs that I like the beat or I like the music and I don't really pay attention to the lyrics. Like Semi-Charmed Kind of Life, it was one of my favorite songs. I had no idea what it really was about until I listened to the lyrics, and I'm like, oh, it's about crystal meth. Oh, okay. Well, that changes things a little bit, But I'm sitting there, I want something else. I didn't know the dude was token up during this thing. But isn't that something the difference between liking a song versus versus and listening to the lyrics that really speak out to you? That I think that is important, and it isn't. I think it helps with managing your emotions, both when it's time to let. My grandmother used to say, "Let the potatoes out," is what she's like. That's an out. It's like, sometimes you just gotta let the potatoes out. That means just let everything you're carrying over your shoulder. You just gotta let the potatoes out. And then there's times where you need to pump yourself up. It's like, let's go. we're
Let's go.
outside.
Wake up.
Let's do this. You know what I mean? Like there's times where you got to pump yourself up, and music really helps. What's your top 3 go-to motivational songs? And it could be any genre, it could be Christian, non-Christian, whatever. What are your top 3 off the top of your head to get crunk, or maybe not crunk, just to get hyped up?
Well, number one favorite, and it's been my favorite since the album came out. It's band Skillet. It's one of their songs. It has a lot of spiritual to it. It's called Beyond Incredible.
Mm.
And the lyrics itself is basically take me away to a higher place, get me off of this planet. I don't want to be here in this negativity anymore. So I think when I hear that song, I burst into tears first, listen to it again, and then I'll wake back up and I'll be like, okay, I got this. I got this, you know. And our second song is the same band, same album, Destroyer. The song, I'm a destroyer. I'm going to destroy anything in my way. Nothing's going to hold me back. I'm focused on what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm focused on my path that I am on. That's song number 2. Song number 3, it's another band called The Letter Black. They're also a Christian song.
Mm-hmm.
Christian rock. Let me repeat that. Christian alternative rock is what they are. The song Fear. Now, it's a little bit heavier than Skillet is. It's a little bit heavier music.
Mm-hmm.
But the word fear is what I've been facing for the past, I don't know how many years. So it's like I'm fearful of everything around me because I don't know what to expect. You expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
I don't like going anywhere blind. I have a plan. I'm a planner. I have to have things in order, a routine, and a plan. If something goes awry, I start to panic. It's like, what is going on here? You know, like
Yeah.
traffic. Traffic was not supposed to happen today. But for some reason, everyone on God's green earth decided, let's go the same way Laura's going.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no.
Yeah. Let's get out on the road today. Let's make Laura's light. Let's ruin Laura's Friday. She's got a podcast. She's got to go record.
I was so mad. I'm like, let's go. And all these cars are going by me, and I'm like, I gotta go.
You know what's funny? Like when I work at home now, I do online teaching. But when I was in the classroom, every morning I'd always say the Lord's Prayer on my way to driving to the school. And usually about the time I do forgive those who trespass against us, someone cuts me off. Or I guess like someone slams on their brakes, and it's almost like, all right, you're testing to make sure I really believe what I'm saying here, because this guy really trespassed. I'm really not happy about this guy. But I think it's funny too. The Lord's Prayer itself, I try to really pay attention to what I'm saying and not just recite it. I think sometimes we can get complacent in our faith as well as other things. And I try to really be cognizant. When I say give us this day our daily bread, I always think about like, thank you for the food I had for breakfast today. Because there's some families that don't have that. And I try to be very cognizant of that. And I think it's a good, even for someone that's not a Christian, if you look at the Lord's Prayer, it is a great morning meditation, because it's about gratitude. It's about, forgiving others just like you'd want to be forgiven yourself. I think that's an important thing. I feel like a lot of us have a lot more in common than we feel like. I feel like there's forces at will that are trying to divide us. And I feel like we focus too much on how different we are rather than how much we have in common. What is some advice you'd give to people out there just now trying to survive this crazy world, especially where we are now with technology and all the stuff going on in the world? What's some advice that you would give folks struggling with their mental health?
Well, first of all, acknowledge that something is wrong. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, I had a bad day, I had a bad week, had a bad month, had a bad year. It could be that emotion, but it could also be something else. Like if your family member is also having struggles, if they're also dealing with stuff, acknowledge that there's something wrong with you. And I know insurance is an issue with a lot of people. I understand that, and I don't try to push to go to see the doctor. But if you're genuinely worried and concerned that something could seriously be wrong, then I see a doctor, and then
Hmm.
they say, see a therapist, a psychiatrist, whatever. And that's what I started with. I had my firstborn, and then I could not stop crying. I just
Hmm.
couldn't. My counselor was like, "Oh, it's just postpartum depression." Yeah, but it lasted for 2 months nonstop. She
Yeah,
goes, "Okay,
that's yeah.
yeah." She's like, "Okay, I can't help you. Go to see a psychiatrist." And I did. Saw that psychiatrist, and because it was a college campus, I had different doctors every 6 months. I was like, "I can't do this."
Mm-mm.
Excuse me. So I looked further into it, and now I have a therapist who's all in one. She is everything, including doing my lab work. As you
Oh,
know,
very
she's
cool.
she's all in one. So it takes a lot of self work to work yourself up to get the encouragement from yourself to say, I can do this. I may not
Hmm.
want to, but I can do this. And what helps me is my kids, my boys.
Yeah.
They are everything to me. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. And I keep repeating that. They're like, "Oh, well, you have to say that you're a mom." No, I don't have to say that. My in-laws can watch my kids. My mom can watch my kids. But I'm
Hmm.
here to raise them. I'm trying to raise them a certain way than I was raised. Because I
Hmm.
was raised with a trauma, and I was raised with a not so happy family members. There was a whole lot of negativity growing up. I don't want my kids to deal with that. So
Hmm.
it's like, in my mind, it's not about me. It's nowhere near about me. It's about them. It's about everybody else in the world. I am so selfless. I don't want anything from anybody. If I get compliments, I appreciate them. Thank you. But that's who I am. I empathize with people, and I feel way, way, way too much. And so with people like that who also have depression, who also have anxiety,
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult to get up, to get dressed, go to work, do a daily life, go through a routine. It's very hard to do it. But depending on how driven you are, will depend on if you actually get that therapy, get whatever they give you, like
Hmm.
medication or whatever. Depending on how driven you are to get better, I mean, there's only so much that someone can tell you to do.
Yeah.
There's only so much advice I can give, experiences I can give. It's ultimately up to you to decide, do you want to keep living? Do you want to keep doing this? Or do you just want to be miserable for the rest of your life and make everyone else miserable around you? You
Yeah.
don't have to be like that. Life is not about to be miserable. You have a purpose here, and that is to do what it is that God ultimately gave you to do and accomplish that goal. And when it's your time to go home, it's your time to go home.
Hmm.
And that's what I've said. People say, are you scared to die? No, I'm not scared to die. If it's my time to go home, I'm going
Hmm.
home. Wherever home is, that's where I'm headed. I'm just here to serve my purpose, to help others in any way that I can. No matter what it takes, I will do it within my power. And if I touch lives, that's great. If I make someone smile, you've made my day. That's all that I want to do is make
Hmm.
someone laugh or smile. You've made my day, and I've accomplished my goal for that day.
That's awesome. And it gives, it gives a perspective when you think about, we're not here, nobody gets out of this place alive. So
No.
while we're here, it's hard to really unwrap it, because I think sometimes there's a little bit of comfort in depression, from the standpoint is like it's familiar. It's like, and
Hmm.
it's, sometimes people are like, well, I'd rather just, I don't want to go through all the trouble. But it's like, there's we're gonna, while you're here, you're living here, you're on, you're living your life. Why
Right.
spend most of it, miserable?
Right.
If there's things that you can do. And I think some of the misconceptions people have had about therapy is going, even talking about mental health on a podcast. I've found
Mhm.
sometimes, like, I'll reach out to somebody that I'm interested in chatting with, and they're kind of almost like, well, I'm not crazy, or I don't have mental health problems. And I'm like, no, that's not what this podcast is about. It's not about
Right.
you're blah, 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 and I want to get you on to tell me about how crazy you are. It's not that at
Right.
all. It's like, it's
No.
talking. We're all real people, real
Hmm.
humans, and these are the real things we all deal with, and just
Yeah.
sharing that out there. And I think that it's important to understand how helpful, like you said, the crying it out, or just you're dumping the potatoes out is important.
Hmm.
Seeing a professional therapist, when you find that essentially a brain mechanic. It's kind of like when you
Yes.
find that mechanic that you trust.
Right.
It's
Yes.
you find that person, and it may you may have to go through. You may have to
Yes.
kiss several frogs to find your prince. I mean, you may have to go
Right.
through several until you find your fit. But I feel
Mhm.
like anybody that's feeling like you're it's like hopeless, or if you're in a state where you're just constantly down, you need to reach
Yeah.
out.
Yes.
Reach
Yes,
out
most
for
definitely.
the help. I'm excited that you're really getting back into your podcast. I'm excited about that. Maybe we can hold each other accountable so that we don't
Mhm.
let that imposter syndrome stop us from doing our stuff. I feel better when I do it. You know,
Right.
we my wife and I just got done dealing with having COVID, and it knocked us on our butts for 2 weeks. I
Oh
mean,
my
for the
gosh.
first week, it was like sick. You know,
Uh-huh.
we were like the living dead. And then the second week, where it was all like coughing up lung butter and stuff, you know, and then also,
Oh.
I know, right? You know, there's an imagery for you, Laura. I just went, yeah, lung butter. There's an image for your head tonight. Think about oh, great. Thanks a lot. But anyways, just to give you the full feeling, but you just like our energy was zapped. And of course I started just kind of like, oh, I don't really know. It's gonna be so much work. And then that's when I was like, okay, no, dude, you gotta do this. This is something that's important to you. Get your butt moving. And it's almost like I try to trick my lizard brain to I
Mhm.
start doing it before I realize I'm doing it. You know, it's kind of like jumping in the shower before you're conscious enough to know that you're in the shower.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
I've
talking
caught
about?
myself doing that. Yes, I've caught myself doing that once or twice. It's like, "Oh, wait, what am I talking about?"
And one of my biggest struggles, has been, exercise. And so what I do is I'll put my walking shoes on before I realize I'm going out the door, like before I realize I'm doing it. So they're already on my feet. So now I gotta go. I can't just sit there and put my Crocs on instead, and just be like, I don't know. I'm just gonna, I guess I won't go. I guess I'll go on Twitter or X. I'll go on X for a while, and Oh,
Right.
okay.
Waste time.
Uh, Social media is great for mental health too.
It
it,
is. It
it
is.
it
Yes.
actually. Well, I will say this. I think sometimes social media does get a bad rap with.
Mhm.
Do you feel like social media is the terrible thing a lot of people say it is, or is it more what you seek on
It's more
social media?
what you seek. It's more what you seek.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and 'cause if your mental stability is nothing but sadness and depression and all that stuff, that's what you're gonna veer towards. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
see that, and if you're focused on, "This is gonna be a good day, I'm excited, I'm gonna get a lot done, we're gonna do so much stuff today," then your mind's gonna go up toward and to say you're gonna see all kinds of positive posts, funny memes, funny stuff all over the place. So to me, I think it depends on your state of mind where you're at. When you wake up, what's it gonna be today? Is it gonna be sad? Is it gonna be happy? Now, for me, sad days are what we have today. It's cloudy, it's dreary,
Mm-hmm.
it's chilly, it's foggy. Those are sad days for me. So, struggle to get through today and stay
And
awake and get motivated,
all
you
the
know?
idiots are on the road to traffic.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Oh, I got road rage too. So that was not a pretty sight.
Yeah, what are you doing? You idiot. And it's usually somebody's grandma going, oh, I don't
Oh
know.
God.
Or
Oh
you get
man.
the or you get this.
Oh,
Oh, that drives me nuts too. It's
don't
like,
get
come
me
on,
started.
man. Come on, dude. Put the phone
Don't get
down.
me started on that.
But I do think it's kind of like what you see. It's like what you consume. It's just like with food. It's like what you consume. Um,
Yeah,
like like builds up inside you. Like if you're seeking,
yeah,
if you're seeking, like depression thing, you're gonna be hanging with Edgar Allan Poe and the goth kids. Life is pain, Whereas if
yeah.
you try to kind of find your tribe of and it is important to find that like group of uplifting people.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
important is self-care? Because like one of the bad raps I hear some people, especially like when people talk about parents, is taking like they sometimes will project taking time for yourself as a parent is selfish because you're denying your kids. But to me, it's kind of I like the analogy. Like Dr. Poppy Gibson was on our podcast, and she used a great analogy of like in an airplane, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first in order for you to
Mhm.
be 100% for your kids. How important is self-care in order to be there for others?
It's very important, extremely. If you're not well, you're not gonna be able to take care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
If you're down, down, down to the dumps, they're gonna feel that vibe. They're gonna feel how you're feeling, and they're gonna be not so behaved. They're not gonna listen to you. They're gonna start trouble. They're gonna fight with you. So I have seen that multiple times on the weekends. Like if I'm feeling down and I'm sad, I just want to do nothing all day. My kids sense it, and so they sense it,
Yeah.
and they start to act up. So I have to think, okay, I need self care. I need to go do something for myself, whether it go, get my hair done or go run errands by myself or something. Just some time, at least an hour. I mean, it doesn't take me an hour, but if it takes an hour just to refocus and then gather your thoughts back, like, okay, I am here, I am alive, I am breathing, I have my family, I am blessed.
Mm-hmm.
I am blessed to be here. I am blessed. Whether I feel it or not, I am. And so to feel that, you have to have some time to yourself, as a parent or as a who does, even if you have fur babies, same thing with them.
Mm-hmm.
Fur babies doesn't matter. You're a parent of some sort, whether it's an animal or a child. You're still a parent. So
Mm-hmm.
you still need self care. You still need time to yourself to gain your thoughts, to refocus on life, get yourself back together. Like, okay, I'm back. I can do this. Go back to being a parent. And the difference is tremendous for me. It
Yeah.
it is like it's insane. Like I come back a totally different person, and the kids are, "Yay, mom's back!"
Yeah.
Like they get
They get
so
mom.
excited.
They
I'm
don't
walking through.
get mopey.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. They get so excited to see me. They're like, "Yeah, I'm home. I'm back." And we just have fun. But it's crazy because I leave home. Bye, mom. We'll see you later. Love you. They're sad and down, and I come back in a happy mood. Yay, mom is home! They get so excited to see me walk through the door.
That's so
But
cool. Well,
yeah,
thank you so much for chatting with me. I'd love to have you back on again. Let's
yeah,
hold each other accountable. Make sure
sure.
we keep doing our podcast because
Mhm,
I feel like what we're doing is important. I feel like making sure others hear these stories and our own thoughts and as well as others. I
mhm,
just before we tie out,
mhm,
what are obviously I'll put your socials where they can find your podcast on Spot. I think it's on you have on Spotify, but you also
mhm,
have your YouTube channel. You have a bunch of shorts on
mhm,
your YouTube channel, as
mhm.
well as Twitter. A little bit of Laura. I'll have all the socials at the end for everybody. More than a fortune cookie. What are some advice just to give everybody for us before we sign off?
Well, everything happens for a reason. You are on a path that you're supposed to focus on. And yeah, you may get distractions left and right. But how I do is like I focus. It's like a tunnel. I have focus on this tunnel that I'm in. All these distractions keep coming to attack me, but you have like you're focused in that dark tunnel. At the very end, there's a light.
Mm-hmm.
Go after that light. Don't go anywhere else because you can't go anywhere else. You're stuck in this tunnel. Just keep going down and facing that light. When you get there, things will start to open up. You'll start to see the sun, you'll start to see life. That's what you want to see is life. So the tunnel is nothing but death. That's all it is. It's trying to bring you down, it's trying to make you miserable as, death is. But when you go through that tunnel, you find that light, it opens up and it's life. You're blessed. You have everything that you could ever need. And it's I'm not saying that you can't be down because you're going to be down and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be down. It's okay to not be okay. But don't stay there forever. It's not where you're supposed to be. You're here for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And the reason is because you are blessed, you are loved, you are cherished, and you are a specific jewel diamond that God has created himself.
Love that. And make sure you seek that light at the end of the tunnel. and I guarantee the light is not attached to a freight train coming towards you. So that's no, but seriously, absolutely great advice. Well, Laura, thank you again. Little bit of Laura. Check out the podcast, subscribe, follow on Spotify, follow on Twitter. On behalf of Little Bit of Laura, I am Mind Runner. Go let the potatoes out today. And now I am setting Laura free to enjoy her weekend and finally get to her Friday relaxing. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Always remember, you are not alone. Catch full episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.